You didn't walk away from your family because you stopped loving them. You walked away because you couldn't survive staying. And the terrifying part? Nobody believes that. Not your aunt. Not your old friends. Not the coworker who says, but they're your family. Like that word alone should be enough to make you stay in something that was quietly destroying you. Here's what nobody talks about. The people who cut contact with their families aren't the cold ones. They're not the selfish ones. Most of the time, they're the ones who felt too much for too long. They're the ones who kept showing up, kept forgiving, kept shrinking themselves to fit a space that was never built for them. And one day, not in anger, not in drama, they just stopped. No explosion. No final speech. Just silence. And that silence? The world decided to call it cruelty. But what if the real story is the opposite? What if the people who disappear from their families aren't running from love, but toward it? For the first time in their lives, toward something that actually feels like it. That's what we're going to talk about today. There's a term in psychology called enmeshment. Most people have never heard it. But if you grew up in a certain kind of family, you lived it, you just didn't have the word for it. Enmeshment is when the boundaries between people inside a family dissolve. Not in the warm, connected way. In the suffocating way. Where your emotions are your mother's emotions. Where your choices are your father's business. Where your success belongs to everyone and your failure is a family embarrassment. In an enmeshed family, there is no you. There's only us. And that sounds beautiful on paper. Until you realize that us always means you disappearing. Think about it. When you were a kid, were you ever allowed to just be upset? Or did your sadness immediately become someone else's crisis? Were you allowed to have a different opinion, or did disagreement feel like betrayal? Could you make a decision, any decision, without it somehow becoming a conversation about how it affected everyone else? If you're nodding right now, you already understand something that took most people years of therapy to name. This is the dark psychology nobody talks about. Not the dramatic abuse. Not the obvious trauma. The quiet kind. The kind where nothing was ever technically wrong, but something always felt off. Like wearing a shoe that's almost your size. Every step hurts just a little. And after years of walking, you don't even remember what it felt like to move without pain. That's what these families do. Slowly. Quietly. With love as the weapon. Here's something that will make you uncomfortable. Most of the people who cut off their families were the good ones. Not the rebels. Not the troublemakers. The good ones. The ones who tried hardest. The ones who called first. Who showed up to every dinner, every holiday, every crisis, even when nobody showed up to theirs. Psychologists have a name for this role too. They call it the identified patient. The one person in a dysfunctional family system who absorbs all the pain, all the tension, all the unspoken dysfunction, and carries it quietly so everyone else can pretend things are fine. You were the peacemaker. The fixer. The one who translated between your parents when they weren't speaking. The one who made sure everyone was okay while quietly falling apart yourself. And the cruelest part of that role? The family needs you in it. Your dysfunction is their stability. Your silence is their peace. And the moment you start to heal, the moment you start to say no, to set a limit, to ask for something back, suddenly you're the problem. Suddenly you're selfish. Cold. Dramatic. There's a reason therapists say that when one person in a dysfunctional system starts to get healthy, the system fights back. Hard. Because your healing threatens the balance. Your boundaries disrupt the machinery. And a machine that's been running under sacrifice for 20 years doesn't just let you walk away quietly. It makes you pay for leaving. And that guilt? That heavy, suffocating guilt that follows you out the door? That's not proof that you did something wrong. That's proof of how deep the roots went. Let's talk about something nobody wants to say out loud. Some people's parents were not bad people. They were wounded people. And wounded people, without realizing it, without intending it, wound their children. Not with hatred. With fear. With control dressed up as love. With expectations wrapped in sacrifice. with silence that spoke louder than any argument ever could. Your father didn't teach you that your emotions were a burden because he was evil. He taught you that because his father taught him the same thing. And his father learned it from his. Generation after generation, passing down the same unspoken rules. Don't be too much. Don't need too much. Don't feel too much. Psychologists call this intergenerational trauma. But you don't need that term to recognize it. You recognize it in the way you apologize for things that aren't your fault. In the way you shrink in rooms where you should expand. In the way love always feels like something you have to earn, never something you just have. That's not a character flaw. That's an inheritance. And here's the part that breaks people open when they finally hear it. You can love someone completely and still recognize that being close to them is making you disappear. Those two things can be true at the same time. Love and distance. Grief and relief. Missing someone and knowing you cannot go back. That tension, that unbearable, complicated, contradictory tension, is what cutting off a family actually feels like from the inside. It's not cold. It's not clean. It doesn't feel like freedom, not at first. It feels like amputation. Necessary. And devastating. At the same time, there's a moment. A specific moment. Most people who have cut contact with their families can point to it. Not always the final conversation. Not always the biggest fight. Sometimes it's something small. Embarrassingly small, even. A comment at Christmas dinner. A phone call that ended the wrong way. A birthday that passed and nobody called. And something just shifts. Not breaks. Shifts. Like a door that's been slightly open your whole life finally closing. Quietly. Without drama. Therapists call it the threshold moment. The point where the cost of staying finally outweighs the fear of leaving. And what's fascinating, what's deeply, psychologically fascinating, is that this moment rarely comes in anger. It usually comes in exhaustion. You're not furious when it happens. You're tired. Tired of explaining yourself to people who decided long ago what you are. Tired of shrinking at the dinner table. Tired of performing okayness in rooms where you've never actually been okay. Tired of the version of you that only exists when you're around them, smaller, quieter, more careful. And one day you realize something that changes everything. You are a completely different person when they're not around. Lighter. Clearer. More yourself than you've ever been. And that contrast, that stark, undeniable contrast between who you were with them and who you were without them, that's what finally makes the decision for you. Not hatred. Not revenge. Not some dramatic declaration. Just the quiet recognition that the person you're becoming cannot survive going back. And protecting that person, that new, fragile, finally breathing version of yourself, is not selfishness. It might be the first truly unselfish thing you've ever done. Because you cannot pour from an empty vessel. And you've been empty for a very long time. Here's what the world gets wrong about people who cut off their families. The world imagines someone bitter. Hardened. Someone sitting alone in an apartment, nursing old wounds, replaying arguments from 15 years ago. Someone who chose isolation over connection, pride over reconciliation. That's the story people tell. Because it's easier than the truth. The truth is most people who make this decision don't stop believing in family. They stop believing in that family. And there's a profound difference. Because what happens after the cut, what happens in the silence, in the empty holidays, in the first birthday you spend completely alone, is not what people expect. It's not relief. Not immediately. It's grief. Real, heavy, complicated grief. The kind that doesn't fit neatly into any category because you're mourning people who are still alive. Mourning a version of family you never actually had but always hoped you would. Psychologists call it ambiguous loss. Grief without a funeral. Pain without permission. Because how do you explain to someone that you're devastated about people you chose to leave? How do you grieve something you walked away from? You do it quietly. Alone. In ways nobody sees. And then, slowly, not quickly, not cleanly, but slowly, something else begins to grow. you start building what psychologists call a chosen family. Friends who show up. Partners who don't weaponize your vulnerabilities. Communities where you don't have to perform a version of yourself that stopped being true years ago. And here's what's remarkable about that. The capacity for love doesn't leave when you leave. It was never the problem. You were always capable of deep, real, devoted love. You just needed to finally aim it somewhere it could actually land. Before we get to the part that I think will stay with you longest. If you've made it here, to this point in the video, I want you to know something. This kind of content doesn't find everyone. It finds the people who need it. And if this found you today, there's a reason for that. So if this conversation has meant something to you, hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow. We're here every day, talking about the things that actually matter. The real stuff. The complicated stuff. The stuff most channels are too afraid to touch. And honestly, if you're watching this, you're probably not someone who does things halfway. You think deeply. You feel deeply. You've been through things that most people around you will never fully understand. That's exactly who this channel is for. Now, back to where we were. Because there's one last thing about the psychology of estrangement that almost nobody talks about. And it might be the most important of all. The people who cut contact, the ones who do the hard, quiet, necessary work of rebuilding themselves from the outside, they don't become closed. They become careful. And those are not the same thing. Closed people shut the door and never look at it again. Careful people leave the door unlocked but stop letting just anyone walk through it. That distinction matters enormously. Because what estrangement teaches, when it's done from a place of genuine self-preservation and not from rage, is discernment. The ability to finally tell the difference between people who love you and people who need you. Between connection and consumption. Between someone who sees you and someone who only sees what you can do for them. That lesson, learned the hardest possible way, becomes the foundation of every healthy relationship you build after. And that foundation? Nobody can take it from you. So here's where we land. Not with answers. Because the honest ones never arrive neatly packaged. The people who walk away from their families are not the ones who loved less. They are, in many cases, the ones who loved so long, so hard, so quietly, with so little return, that one day their body simply said, enough. And that word, enough, might be the most radical thing a person can say. Not in anger. Not in selfishness. But in a calm, clear recognition that you are a human being. Not a role. Not a function. Not the family scapegoat or the family savior or the family secret keeper. A person. With limits. With needs. With a life that belongs entirely to you. The world will not always honor that decision. Some people will never understand it. And you may spend years, honestly, you may spend the rest of your life, carrying a grief that has no name and no ceremony and no casserole dish left on your doorstep. But you will also wake up, slowly, as yourself. And there is nothing more quietly extraordinary than that. There's a verse that has followed me through this conversation. Proverbs 4 verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Not wall it off. Not harden it. Guard it. With wisdom. With intention. With the kind of love that begins, finally, with yourself. That's not abandonment. That's the beginning. If this video reached something real in you, hit that subscribe button and share this with 5 people who need to hear it. Not to convince anyone of anything. Just because some people are carrying this alone and don't know they don't have to. Leave a comment below. Tell me honestly, did this land? And tell me what you want us to talk about next. What's the conversation you haven't been able to find anywhere else? I'll be here.